All right, welcome everyone. I'm Mike Nardi. This is the first stream I'm doing of 2023, and we're going to be covering just general Fiverr business tips focused around helping people make more money on Fiverr. So I actually put together a little deck for you guys, and I'll start reading through it. I'm just going to give a couple minutes, let a couple people filter in. But basically, the theme of this video, I'm going to be going through a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation that I've created, focused on making more money on Fiverr through implementing some pro Fiverr business tips that'll help you make more money, that'll help you do better with your clients, that'll help you negotiate better, get more tips, and just overall level up if you're someone who's, maybe a little newer to freelancing, a little newer to Fiverr, hasn't been in sales before, hasn't negotiated before. The goal of this video is to address some common things that a lot of you probably face to help you make more money on Fiverr. So just before I kind of flip through and make the deck bigger on the screen here, just want to say hello to, Mohammed in the chat. Thanks for coming. Spark X, we got Chantilly. Hello. So let's get right into it. So I'll make this a little bit bigger. So this is the presentation, Make More Money, Fiverr Business Tips live stream. I'll go through this presentation slide by slide. I'll talk through the slides, and then I'll take a little pause between each major part of the presentation to answer any questions and chat with you guys if you have any questions about what I've discussed. So starting with this, 10. 10 means nothing to you right now, but what that is 10 was the number of graphic designers I had to message on Fiverr before one of them eventually asked me about my business related to a logo I was getting designed recently. So this is where I wanted to kick things off, right? I know a lot of you are logo designers. I know a lot of you are not. We're all Fiverr sellers. I'm a Fiverr seller, but occasionally I buy stuff on Fiverr to test out the platform and see if there's room for people to improve. And recently, I purchased a logo for myself, and I was really curious to see what that process was like. I messaged 10 different designers from level 1 sellers all the way to Fiverr Pro or top rated sellers. It took 10 messages to 10 different designers before one of them asked me anything about my business or anything about my logo. So guys, if you're watching this and you're like, yeah, that's pretty normal, it's not good. It was a red flag for me. A red flag that, if someone that I'm trying to give money to do something for my business is not asking me questions about what my business or what I need help with, it's probably a low value seller, probably a very transactional seller, probably someone who, isn't going to do a great job trying to align with what I'm looking for. So some pro tips here, because I know a lot of us have been in this situation before. I was probably at one point in my career, someone who, didn't ask enough questions, kind of raised these red flags with my clients. But basically, you don't want to ever get too excited to take the order to the point where it stops you from taking the necessary steps to build a good relationship with the person that you're trying to get to hire you, right? So I know what it's like. You start on Fiverr. It's exciting the first time someone messages you. You want to make money and you want to do everything that you can to get that order right away. You don't care about anything. You just want to get the money. It's good to be excited, but remember, this is still a business you're running, and you need to handle this person with respect, and you need to focus on why they might be messaging you. Otherwise, they might not hire you. Right? So don't get too excited. Still keep your eye on the prize and do the things that you need to do to win this order. The next thing, and this one should go without saying, is always ask a new client about their business, right? If someone's messaging you and you've never chatted with them before, and they want you to do a certain thing, what I'm going to tell you right now is that they're evaluating you before you even get the order. So any questions they're asking you, they're looking for you to ask them, to guide them through the process, to learn about their business so that you can do a better job on their project. And just taking a couple of minutes to do this will go a long way. The next thing we're going to talk about is, again, something that should be obvious. You've asked them about their business. You should take some time to dig into what they need help with. Don't assume. It's very common for us as Fiverr sellers to get excited and to assume we know what they're talking about, to assume that they've read all of our gigs, to assume we're on the same page. That'll bite you down the road, because you're going to get into a situation where you've assumed wrong or they've assumed wrong. They're not going to be happy. There's going to be friction. It's not great. So always, always, always ask them questions about what they need help with and dig into that until you are 100% confident you know what they need. This is a good one. So ask them whether they have any ideas for how you might work together. So this is one that, it's kind of maybe a little unclear in that point, but as you're going through asking them questions about their business and what they need help with, a really helpful piece of information is to figure out whether or not they've worked with someone like you before. If they have, what worked well? What did they like about that? What did they want to make sure happened in this working relationship? Getting their feedback on how you can make them happy is huge too. And this is one that I mentioned a little bit earlier, is that until they actually place that order, just because they're messaging you doesn't mean they're going to order. Could just be that they're evaluating you. So you could still blow it even though someone seems interested. And this is exactly kind of where we came to get this scenario. And like I mentioned earlier, if you don't ask them questions, it might be perceived as a red flag, like during my experience hiring a designer recently. So before we go to the next one, any questions? This is a scenario, just refresher for anyone joined in. I had to message 10 designers before any of them asked me about my business or my project. And these are just some tips for, some things you can do to make sure you're giving the best first impression possible and giving yourself a chance to win the order. So anyone in the chat have questions? Anyone? I'll give it a couple seconds. Otherwise, we will move on to the next one. All right, next slide. Don't be an order taker. So this one is huge, and this is something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. When you're selling on Fiverr, right, we talk a lot about value, right? The perception of value, the value you're providing in your services. Sorry, I was just reading the chat. So when you're doing that, this goes hand in hand with the last thing we talked about. You don't want to just be an order taker. It's not your goal to just as quickly as possible take their money, deliver them a service, and move on, right? If you want to be able to sell stuff at a high value, if you want to have customers that keep coming back, if you want to, win a deal in the first place, you can't be focused on being an order taker. This isn't like we're negotiating at a flea market, right? Like, oh, what's the lowest price we can get? A lot of people have that mindset, but that's not necessarily true. You're selling a service. You are a person. You're selling your time as a service. You need to treat things as such. So throughout the process, if you don't already, try your best to offer advice, make suggestions, and provide your own ideas for how you might be able to help if the opportunity arises. So an example of this is, let's say you're a video editor, right? And someone messages you saying, hey, I need help editing videos for this new YouTube channel. To be an order taker, you would just say, yeah, no problem. Let me edit the video, no problem. If you want to not be an order taker, you would give them some advice. Hey, I noticed that your editing style, you were doing this. That's probably not the best for retention. Can I make some suggestions based on my experience? Just doing that little bit, that little extra of providing your own feedback based on your own experience can go miles for you, right? So burn that one in your head. I'll go back here. Don't be an order taker. Your goal should not be to get the order placed as quickly as possible, deliver as quickly as possible. You want to take the time to understand their needs, prove to them that they understand your needs through your conversation, and then provide some value in the form of feedback or suggestions. So before I go to the next one, I noticed we have a couple of questions in the chat. We'll just address those. So let me get this smaller. So Joaquin asks, am I a buyer or a seller? So I'm a Fiverr prorated seller. I do occasionally buy stuff on Fiverr through, giveaways on this channel or things I need for my business. So I guess I'm a little bit of both. As a voiceover talent, is offering to do custom audition prior to the order being placed a good example of number 10? I mean, as a voiceover talent, you're probably sharing some form of portfolio, some example of what you've done in the past anyways. A custom audition, well, I think that could definitely work. I think it really depends on the type of client and, the size of the project. If it's something where, a big brand is looking for the new voice of their brand and you want to go the extra mile, sure. Could even be applicable to smaller orders, but as your business grows, I imagine taking the time to do a custom audition for everybody might eat into your working time a little bit, but yeah, not a bad idea. All right, so Yukupu says, I'm working as voiceover almost 5 years, but I can't increase my rate. Now much lower payment than before I started. How I increased my rate? I've completed 500 projects. So this, we won't get into this too much, but this is kind of a common theme and topic we're talking about in this presentation. It has to do with value. If you're thinking about increasing your prices and you're having trouble doing that and people won't accept your new prices, you might want to evaluate your services and how you work with clients to see if there's room for you to increase the level of the quality of your work or the quality of your customer service before raising the prices, because that might shift the perception of value. Good question. What's up? Love from Pakistan. Hey, Azran. So I'm not going to go too much into ChatGPT. I have a video about this that you can check out on the channel. I just want to be respectful of everybody's time. I have a couple more helpful slides I want to get through. Okay. So what is your why? So this is one where this is a little bit more pie in the sky stuff. But when you're doing Fiverr, at some point throughout your journey, from when you started to where you are now to where you want to be, you need to take a step back at some point and think about why you're doing it in the first place. What's your why? Why are you on Fiverr? Obviously we all want to make money. That's a big reason why a lot of us are on Fiverr, right? And that goes without saying. Oops, sorry. But another question that a lot of people got to ask is, do you enjoy doing it? And the reason I'm bringing this up is, I talk to a lot of people who say, hey, I can't increase my prices, or I'm having trouble increasing my prices or getting orders. Well, a lot of the times when I talk to these people, they actually hate selling on Fiverr. So, you got to ask the question, why are you doing it if you hate it? Because you're going to be in kind of this like self-destructive circle where you're not able to succeed if you don't at all enjoy it and actually hate it. And that goes to this point. Is it a total drag for you? So this is one of those things where, and I have a video coming out about this, where if you notice that certain aspects of being a freelancer are such a drag, that might be an inflection point where you want to pump the brakes a little bit and try to decide whether or not maybe you're doing the wrong thing as a freelancer. Maybe you're offering services that you think offer the highest potential for making money, but they're the worst suited to your actual skill set. Maybe you should evaluate something else. You should think about these things. This is a big one. Do you care to deliver good work? And this goes back to the last one where we talked about not being an order taker. Is people are hiring you because they need something, usually for their business. People hiring people to do stuff for their business want good work. Their business is their baby. It's probably how they make money. So when a freelancer or a service provider is delivering work and they just do not at all care, they just want to get the delivery done, get the money and move on, that gets felt by the buyer. Not only does it just give them this sense that they might have gotten ripped off or they hired the wrong seller, but it might show through in the quality of your work. So if you don't know why you're doing Fiverr and you find that, you actually hate it and you don't enjoy delivering the work, you need to kind of reassess and be like, hey, if I want to do this long term, I need to find a way to enjoy the process, or at least respect the process, to the point where I understand that it's on me, it's my brand, my business, my reputation to deliver good work. And it matters too, because it's the right thing to do when someone's hiring you to do something, right? And this is a big one. Do you get angry when a client asks you to change something? So I'll be the first to admit, I absolutely hate getting revision requests. It is a thorn in my side. They always seem to happen when I'm lying in bed. I get a message at like 1 a.m, ruins my night. I don't like getting revisions, but I don't like them just because that's the nature of finishing a project. You think it's done and there's this one last step before it's completed. But I respect revisions, right? Because it's a part of our business, right? So if you're someone who gets angry when a client asks you to change something, I encourage you to, maybe spend some time thinking about revisions. Do you offer unlimited revisions? If you do, my advice is don't. Clearly outline that you include a set amount of revisions, and that'll make it easier to stomach every time you get one. 1, 2, or anything more they would have to pay for. But yeah, if you're getting angry every time someone places a revision request, you need to think about that, because revisions are going to keep happening the more successful you are on Fiverr. But they don't have to be miserable. You can kind of create a box for yourself to play in with your clients where you're controlling how far a revision can go. And we'll talk about that more in future videos. Okay, so before I go forward, any questions, now's the time to put them in the chat. I'm going to take a quick sip of water and we'll get right back into it. Hello, Twowski. Nice to see you. Mediway says, hello, Mike. I'm a seller on Fiverr with 700 to 1,000 impressions daily, but very rarely get an order, and I've worked upon gig image and video a lot. Okay, so what this tells me is your gig is a gig that people are searching for, right? Impressions means that it appears on the screen somewhere. But if nobody's clicking it, it could either mean, it probably means your thumbnail is just not good enough, if I'm being honest, right? 700 to 1,000 impressions a day is quite a bit. So your gig description and title might be good enough to get it to appear in search, but nobody's actually clicking it. That sounds like a situation where your thumbnail needs to be improved. If you are getting clicks as well, which you haven't clarified here, but you're just not getting orders, that's a different situation. That could be maybe the quality of your work once people get to your gig isn't where it needs to be. Maybe the pricing's off, the packages. I would start with the thumbnail and work backwards from there. McLean says, you have no clue how much your videos have helped me. Love from Ghana. Love right back at you, man. I'm really happy to hear that. I hope they continue to be helpful. Another person from Ghana. What's up? What's up? Okay. How do you start working on Fiverr? So Joaquin, we're not going to cover this in this video. I have whole tutorials about how to get started on Fiverr. You should definitely check them out. Okay. And last one before we go to the next slide. So Azran says, if we narrow down our services, is it affect to our earnings? So typically, just really high level, if you're offering services on Fiverr, you want to kind of be specific, niche down to services that you're actually proficient at, that you have a high level of expertise at. So if you narrow down your services in that way, it should help you become more of an expert in that niche and actually make more money. Hope that makes sense. Okay, we're going to go to the next slide. So this one's about revisions. We talked about this a little bit just now. Everyone hates revisions typically. But here's how you can do less revisions by setting the right expectations. So I touched on this earlier, and we're going to hit a couple bullet points about this. But revisions don't have to be this bottomless pit of work. And I know for a lot of people, it's really hard to say no to a revision. A lot of people have it in their head that they have to do unlimited revisions, but you don't. They don't have to be terrible. You don't even have to offer revisions. And this all comes from setting the right expectations. So the first thing you do to get a grasp on the whole revision thing is to take the time to actually chat with your buyers, right? Number one reason revision requests are submitted is because at some point during the process, up until that person buying, there was a misconception. Something was missed. They didn't understand something. So taking the time to talk to them about your services, explain what you provide, talk about what they need before the order's placed is your number one easiest thing you can do to avoid revisions. And this goes to the second point. So make sure they fully understand your offer. And this includes people who have maybe placed an order automatically and submitted the requirements. If you notice that, maybe the requirements questions they've submitted to are a little unclear, or maybe they messaged you something that didn't really make sense and then just went ahead and placed an order, you should take a step back and just quickly ask, say, hey, listen, Mr. Customer, before I get started on this project, I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page. Is this, and this what you were expecting of me? Ask them. It'll save you a lot of time after the fact. The next one, again, goes back to that first one again. Make sure you fully understand what they need. So, and this goes back to the order taker one and the first slide we had. Don't get too excited. Don't just say, yes, 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 you can do whatever they need, because you might not be able to. Before you let them place an order, ask them all the questions you need to get the information you need. And you can tell them, hey, listen, a part of my process to making sure I provide amazing quality work to my clients is I need to make sure we're on the same page and I fully understand your requirements. So can you just answer these couple questions for me? They'll appreciate it. They won't look at you like you don't know what you're doing because you're asking questions. And if they do, they're probably not a great client to work with. And of course, the next one, use the requirements gathering questionnaire in Fiverr that is available on all of your gigs. This is the number one thing. So you want to set up your gig requirements in such a way that in the rare situation, hopefully it's a rare situation, that someone just places an order without messaging you at all. Your requirements questions collect enough information so you have absolutely everything you need to complete this project, or at the very least, gives you enough to get you like 95% of the way there. Leverage your requirements gathering questions. And even after an order is placed, if you're working on the project, if you've got the requirements, you've had your conversation, and you think of something 2-3 days later that you should probably ask for clarity on, ask for clarity on it. It'll save you. It'll help you build a good relationship with the client, and it'll help you deliver or give you a better chance of delivering a project they're really going to love. Okay, so before we go to the next one, questions, comments, concerns, put them in the chat. I'll answer them over the next couple minutes before we go into the next slide. Okay. Odie says, I'm thinking of selling a gig on Fiverr, still thinking about the gig. What do you think about being on multiple platforms like Upwork and Fiverr? I think that's a great idea. I think there's no harm in, spreading yourself across a couple platforms in the early days. I've made a bunch of videos in the past where I was very adamant that Fiverr is the best platform, and I do believe that. I think Fiverr is probably the best platform to build a freelance business. But yeah, if you're just starting out and you have the time and the energy to create profiles on multiple freelance sites, no harm in doing that. You should totally go for it. And then go with the site that seems to work best for you, because it could be different depending on who you are and how you work. Good question. The all bolds comment. How to increase impressions on gigs. So this is kind of a bigger topic than I can answer in this video. I have videos on this, but generally speaking, impressions are a measure of how often your gigs are appearing in Fiverr searches. And that's usually influenced by keywords included in your gig title and in your gig description, and how closely those keywords relate to what people are searching for. Just some basic SEO there, but there's more to it than that, like ratings and all that come into play as well. But keywords are the basis for how stuff appears in search. All right, so getting tipped. Now we're going to talk about the things you can do to get tipped. So for those of you who don't know, on Fiverr, just like if you were at a restaurant, Fiverr actually has the option where if you do a really good job, someone can tip you and pay you more money than what they had originally agreed upon in the order. Called a tip. It's a great way to make extra money. Over the last 4 years, I've probably made like $4,000 or $5,000 not 40 or 50, sorry, $4,000 or $5,000 in tips over the last 4 years, which is fantastic. And, I'm going to give some tips on how you can get tipped, but it's a great way to make extra money without actually having to do too much extra. Usually it's just you spending a little bit of extra time building a better relationship, providing a little bit better customer service. And, what a lot of that comes down to is just the level of care that you put into your work. So tips to get more tips. Create a little something extra that you can include with your delivery. So this is something that I've been doing for a long time. So basically, anytime someone places an order for one of my gigs, regardless what it is, I always deliver what they ordered and something else. So for example, if I'm writing a sales email for someone and they purchase one email, one subject line, I might include a second subject line for free. Or if they ask for a revision, I might do it and say, hey, listen, I normally only include one revision, but this time around, since our first time working together, I'll give you a second one if you need the email to get tweaked again. Whatever it is, whatever you offer, figure out what's something that you can do that's just a little bit extra work that you can give to them that would really make them feel like they're getting a great value and really happy with the service. Not only will this help you get more tips, but it'll help you get more orders. A lot of my repeat clients have come back to me because of the little something extra I give them at the end of an order. It's a really great, easy thing to do to get tips and make more money. This is a big one. This is something that nobody really does, but send an order confirmation message after you receive a new order, thanking them and letting them know that you'll get started shortly. So imagine this. You're in bed, you're sleeping, you wake up, you see that you got a Fiverr order. You see that they submitted their requirements, but you have 5 other orders to complete before you do that one. Normally what a lot of people do is they'll just leave that order that they just got, complete the other ones, and then get started. That's fine, but a great way that you can go the extra mile is to just send that new buyer a quick message in the order page. Hey, Mr. Customer, I got your order. Thank you so much for completing your requirements. I have this slotted for completion within the delivery timeline. I'm going to get started on this for you shortly. You're not really telling them anything new. You're just letting them know, hey, I got the order. I see it. I'm going to get started on it soon. Just that little message will, really put their mind at ease and make them feel like they've made the right choice in hiring you. It goes a long way. Another thing you can do is check in midway through the order timeline. So I'm a freelancer. I understand how it is. You have a lot of projects going and you use the order timelines to help you divvy up your work so you have time to complete all your projects. You might not necessarily start a project till halfway or 3/4 of the way or just before the deadline in some cases. But that doesn't mean you have to go dark on the client. And a lot of the times, especially people who've never hired a freelancer before, they'll get nervous if they don't hear from you for a couple days. So if you get an order and it's approaching that midway point of when it's supposed to be delivered, just send them a message. Say, hey, listen, Mr. Customer, haven't forgotten about you. Just wanted to let you know that your order is in my completion queue. I'm definitely going to have it done for you before the deadline. Just a quick FYI, I hope you're having a great day. Just like the order confirmation message, if you send them a message like that, their mind's going to be at ease. They're going to love you. They're going to appreciate it. 9 times out of 10, they send me a really nice message saying, oh my God, that's so good of you to check in. That really makes us feel better. It goes a long way. You should consider it. And last is use a delivery message to thank them for their business. And this is the easiest one because you can actually just create a template of this. Fiverr allows you to create little text snippets so that when you deliver a message or an order, you can include some messaging with it. You should totally do this. It's just something short. Hey, here's your completed project. It was a pleasure working with you on this. I think X, Y, and Z is really going to help your business. Thank you so much. I look forward to working with you again. It's professional. It gives you one last opportunity to message them just so that they remember who you are. And it might help you get more tips and future orders. So it might give you more tips because think of it like this. When an order gets marked as completed, buyer doesn't really have to do anything. If you send them a message and they get a notification with the completion, they're going to be prompted to go into Fiverr again and read the message, and they're going to see all the rating and tip dialog boxes in Fiverr because your message has prompted them to go back into the app. It's a good thing to do maybe it gets you a tip 1 out of every 20 times, but that's worth it in my opinion. And this one should go without saying. If you want to get tips and you want people to keep coming back and ordering from you and getting more tips and more orders over time, answer their questions as quickly as you can. I've worked with people who every time I send them a message, it takes 4 days for them to get back to me. Listen, I get it. We all live in different time zones, and sometimes I might be messaging someone when it's nighttime. But 4 days means you're ignoring me or you're too busy or can't handle your workload enough to message me back. So if someone's messaging you, especially if they've placed an order with you, don't just forget about them after they've placed an order. Try to get back to them as quickly as possible. Usually the first thing I do in my day as a freelancer is I clear out my inbox just to make sure everyone got an answer. And that way the ball's back in their court and they can message me when they're ready. But yeah, responding to messages promptly will give them, a really big sense of trust, really put their mind at ease. And it'll help you get some tips because it shows that you care and you want to help them. All right, so that was the last slide. Let's get some questions going. But yeah, if you guys have any questions about any of that, I just wanted to kind of hammer you guys with this just so you had it in your head. You can apply this to your business. I'll be saving this PowerPoint stream onto the channel. But if you have any questions now, I'd be happy to answer them for you. Okay, so Chantilly says, I'm thinking about making a group coaching gig. What do you think about that? So I'd be curious to know what you mean by group coaching. The reason I ask is due to how Fiverr works, right? Like someone has to place an order with you. So if you're selling group coaching services, right? The person who's buying those services from you is probably going to be the person who has to be responsible for kind of facilitating and putting together the group. That just seems like something that'd be a little difficult for you to coordinate because you don't have control over their network. However, one thing you might want to try, it might not be group coaching, but Fiverr recently rolled out paid consultations where you can sync up your calendar with Fiverr and people can buy coaching slots directly into your calendar. That might make things easier for you. I just don't know how I would make group coaching work since you can't really sell to a group of people on Fiverr. It seems a little difficult. Okay, IT Realm says, I've created a new account and it's about a month now and I haven't gotten any orders yet. My friend, it's so hard for me to tell you why that is because I know nothing about you, your service, or what you've done to sell it. But what I'll say is it does take time, especially for new sellers. Focus on your stats for the first few months. Are you getting impressions? If not, work on making a better gig description and title. If you get to the point where your impressions are up and you're not getting clicks, now you got to work on a thumbnail. If you tackle those so you're getting impressions and clicks but no orders, now you got to work on how you're selling your services. Are the pricing and packages good? How is your negotiation when people are messaging you in chat? Things like that. It does take time, but stick with it. I did an experiment like a year and a half ago where I created a new gig, and this is me as someone with hundreds of ratings, and it took me like 68 days to get one order. So it can take some time. Chantilly says, P.S. one of my coaching gigs do pretty well. Just want to save time. Yeah. So, I mean, I hear you, but I really don't know. I don't know how I would do the one-to-many coaching thing through Fiverr. I don't think it's really set up to be like fractional orders like that. Jacob says, someone placed an order on my Fiverr gig without informing me. What are the consequences of a cancellation? Additionally, how can we handle? Okay, so cancellations are really bad. They're going to hurt you no matter what. So in this situation where someone placed an order on Fiverr without informing you, we talked about this a little bit earlier, requirements gathering questions. Use them. Put as many questions as you can that are mandatory that they need to fill out so that when they place an order, they need to take the time to fill you in. Other than that, you can put a little note in your gig description, making sure that they follow up with you. But yeah, unfortunately, if someone ordered your gig and it's totally the wrong gig, there's not much you can do about it. You can request a mutual cancellation and then maybe message Fiverr support, letting them know about the situation. But other than that, I don't think there's really much you can do. Azran says, is people using narrowed down service? Are people willing to buy from a specialist or a generalist? Listen, I'm going to put this one back in your court, play a little hardball. What do you think? If you were hiring someone to do something for you, would you rather hire the person who specializes in that thing or is a generalist? I think that goes without saying, right? The specialist, right? So we should always be striving to be as specialized as possible, but it doesn't hurt to be a bit of a generalist in the sense that you know multiple skill sets. That's fine. But you need to be positioning yourself as a specialist. Nobody's going to hire the generalist over the specialist. Game Dev Coach says, how do we increase repeat business? So I'll put this back up on the screen. This one here. How to get tipped. Little section here. These are kind of a lot of the same things you can do to get repeat business as you would to get more tips. Create a little something extra that you deliver with your order to give them an incredible customer experience. Send them order confirmation when you receive the order, letting them know that you see it, you're there. Check in midway through the order, use the delivery message, and answer all their questions. Generally, you just want to provide the most responsive, best customer service you can, and that'll increase the chances of you getting repeat orders. It's pretty, it isn't rocket science, but it does take some practice to get into the habit of doing those types of things regularly. Sunny says, hey, Mike, I've completed all the top-rated requirements, but Fiverr is not yet giving me top-rated badge. Can you please guide me? My friend, I'm in the same situation. So I've made $100,000 on Fiverr. I'm a prorated seller, but I'm still a level 2 seller. So to my understanding, they've kind of dialed back how many people they let into top rated, because when Fiverr was smaller, it could be one of those things where it was just a threshold you hit and then you become top rated. But as you can imagine, with so many people selling on Fiverr now, it's kind of diluted the whole value of being top rated. So it's a hand selected process. Some people still do get selected, but a member of Fiverr's team has to actually look at your profile and say, oh yeah, they're different enough that we can make them top rated. I wouldn't worry about it. Instead, maybe apply to Fiverr Pro. That's what I did. It's worked out great. Faria says, how much time does it take to rank Fiverr gig? So this is kind of a tough question to answer, because it's not really a question of time as it is a question of the things you're doing to rank your gig based on what people are searching for. So it's a process. You have to see how your gig's doing, tweak it, add keywords, change the description, and then measure the impacts of these changes to see whether or not it's helping that gig rank in Fiverr search. So depending on the category you're in, the keywords you're focused on, the competition, there's so many factors. I can't really give you a timeline. It can take some time. It could be quick. It could happen the first time you create your gig. It really depends. Hey, Mike, currently have 20 reviews and I'm getting lots of orders, 10 per month. Nice. I thought of increasing prices. Is this a good idea? My premium package costs $295. Will people pay that amount? So, dude, I can't tell you what people will pay for your service, but what I will say is the only way to know is to test it out. So what I always say is, whenever you're thinking about increasing your prices, increase it incrementally. Do it a little bit. See if it affects how many orders you get. That's what I did. I went from $5 to $10 to $20 to $40 to $50. I wouldn't dramatically increase it all at once, because then it might put you out of the ballpark of what your typical type of client can afford. So I would increase prices slowly over time, see how that impacts your sales over time, and go from there. Yeah, but good job. 10 orders per month is pretty great. Good work. Okay, so Azran hitting us with the same question. Andrea says, thank you, Mike. This is invaluable information and guidance. Awesome. I'm really happy it is. I'm going to try to do a bunch of these little mini presentations every month or so, just because I think it's the type of information that's helpful that wouldn't fit really well into a video. And you guys probably wouldn't stick around for the whole video. I don't know why, but that's just the way it is. So I'll put this type of stuff in live streams, and you guys can watch it and learn from it when it works for you. So Azran says, I'm a freelance QuickBooks bookkeeper. I'm a little bit confused about how to deliver value. Is there any chances to freelance yeah, so I mean, bookkeepers are in demand. Every business needs a bookkeeper. In the world of bookkeeping, though, like your services boils down to a couple things. A, your ability to be a bookkeeper. B, how good of a bookkeeper you are. Like, do you make mistakes? Do you miss things? And C, how good you are to work with. So if you're a good bookkeeper, you can do bookkeeping. Where you can add value is becoming an easier person to work with, becoming an invaluable member of their team. Make it as easy as possible for them to submit their receipts to you. Guide them on the process. Do whatever you can to make the business owner's life easier, and that'll make you a high-value bookkeeper. Okay, so this is the same question. All right, guys, so if we don't have any new questions, I'll give it a couple minutes, but we'll wrap things up here. If you guys thought this type of a presentation was helpful, for those of you who might have just joined, we did a little presentation here where we talked about how to make more money on Fiverr, Fiverr Business Tips live stream, and I just kind of talked about some different situations that, you might run into as a freelancer. So if this was helpful, leave a comment in the video letting me know other topics you'd like me to cover, and I'll do my best to put together new presentations down the road that you can use to make more money on Fiverr. So that's it for today. Hope you guys all have an amazing day, and until next time, cheers.